Welcome to today's webinar. And we're just going to give a few minutes for everybody to join here. And while we wait, we actually have a few cool poll questions for you guys to fill out. So I'm actually going to go ahead and launch those polls. Take a few seconds to give your answer, and then in a few minutes here, we will get started. So I'm going to go ahead and launch our first poll. And you guys should see it now. It says every KPI is a metric, but not every metric is a KPI. So go ahead and cast your votes, and then we will review the results in a few minutes here. Oh, and happy belated 4th of July, everybody. And while you guys are filling out the polls, I know it looks like a few people are joining. Just going to introduce ourselves. So my name is Valentina. I'm the product marketing manager here at LimeLight. And today I'm really excited. We have a really amazing topic and some really amazing speakers. So I'm going to introduce them. We have Chad, our director of analytics, waving. And then we have guest speaker Marc Evans, VP of operations at HaloRiver. So, they're going to introduce themselves and give a little bit more about their background, but I'm just going to highlight the fact that Chad actually was an e-commerce merchant for 16 years before he joined LimeLight, and Marc as well has been in the e-commerce space for 12, 15 years. So they're going to be able to share personal stories on this topic and how it actually helped them grow their business. So, okay, looks like a bunch of you answered poll number 1. So let's share those results. Okay. Oh, interesting.
There we go. Cool. Everybody's smart.
That is, Chad is saying you guys all got it correct. So that is true. Every KPI is a metric, but not every metric is a KPI. Nice. Cool. We have another poll for you guys, but I'll launch that in a little bit. Why don't we go ahead and get started, because it looks like we have a few participants in now. So
great.
Yeah, we already introduced ourselves, but I just want to introduce the topic that we're going to be covering today. And that is really the secret to growing your business, taking it to the next level, and getting that edge over your competition. And that secret really lies in three key words, which is performance indicators. If the poll didn't give you a taste of what's in store today, and why Chad is going to cover why KPIs are so important, why they matter, how to set the right ones for your business, and how they're going to help you grow and take your business to the next level. Because what a lot of companies tend to do is they launch their business, they scale quickly, they sell a bunch of products, they maybe even set business goals, but then they think that they just have to keep doing the same things that they're doing. But if you're really not measuring and setting any important metrics that matter to your business, then you're really not seeing those performance gaps. And then the question lies, which is, what are you basing your business decisions on? So some really, really interesting questions and topics that we're going to dive into today. So before I hand it over to Chad, I'm going to cover some housekeeping items with you all. So everyone should see a Q&A icon at the bottom of their screen. At any time throughout this webinar, feel free to pose your questions. I will be personally monitoring and making sure that we answer each and every single one of your questions. I'll either answer it privately or we'll pose it to the group and we'll answer it live. But either way, all your questions will be answered. So make sure you send us your questions. And that's probably it. So without further ado, I'm going to hand it to the star of the show, Chad.
Well, I don't know about a star. You set that expectation so high. But thank you, everybody, for joining us. It really is a big deal that you would give 45 minutes to an hour of your time to talk about stuff that matters to you. So I appreciate the time, and I hope that we can use it very wisely. As Val had mentioned, I've been a merchant for many years. I don't do that anymore, but let me just give you a brief taste of my background so you understand where I'm coming from and what I'm saying today. So in 1996, I started selling insurance leads online, and it was for New York Life and Unum America. That was really my first experience in doing anything online. From there, I went to Whole Foods Market. I started their e-commerce channel and sold nutritional supplements for them, not the food, but nutritional supplements. Loved that, but wanted a bigger challenge. So I decided I wanted to go sell cleaning products for a company called OxyClean. Actually, the name of the company is Orange Glow International. They had OxyClean, Kaboom, and Orange Glow brands. I launched all those brands online and got the brand marketer's experience online, and that really helped me from the next phase of my career, which was really in the space that a lot of our clients are in, which is generating sales through affiliate networks. I had several offers that I ran through affiliate networks, and I'll give you an example later on in the talk here on just how I used KPIs to help me there. But that's my background. My passion, though, what I found was that marketing was fun for a while, but it became really it wasn't something that I enjoyed. I gravitated towards certain aspects of the business, and mostly in the analytics side. I really just enjoyed spending my time on the analytics side. So I decided about 5 years ago to stop doing marketing and focus entirely on analytics. And I came to LimeLight, and we built this platform called Analytics. And it's a great little platform. It's come a long way from the year that we've had it, but the features have been really cool to develop because I get to solve these problems that you guys tell me about, and I get huge satisfaction out of that. So with that, though, today we're going to talk solely on this benchmarks functionality that we have. And in order to really talk about the benchmarking functionality, you've got to have an understanding of KPIs, key performance indicators, and then benchmarking. We call it LimeLight Benchmarks, but really there's two components to it, and I'll get into that more. But before I do that, I want to introduce a friend of mine. You've seen him on screen. His name's Marc Evans. Marc's a great guy as a side. He's just a really good person. And I've known him for about 5 years. He spent 15 years at Starbucks doing some work similar to what we do every day, with selling stuff online. I don't know if he'll get into that much, but what I do know and what I want to tell you about Marc is that I've learned to really respect Marc. I've used his counsel many times, and I appreciate Marc just spending the time with us today, because I really do think that he's got a lot to add. I would encourage you to ask questions of Marc. He's got a really unique perspective. And Marc, just thank you. Thank you so much for joining us today. I appreciate it.
I appreciate the opportunity to join you today as well, and, total kudos to you for, what you've done with your platform. And it's already, turned out to benefit me in many ways. And, coming from a retail environment like Starbucks to total 100% digital e-commerce platform, I've probably learned more in the last 5 years than I have in my previous 20 years of a career. So, and it's all based on using and knowing how to implement the information that you get out of the analytics. So I agree with you. You know, it's like you don't know what you don't know until it hits you in the face sometimes, and you need to know what to do with it once it happens. So, you know, I've been really blessed to be able to participate with you and, you know, helping, you know, test and work out the kinks with the benchmarks platform, especially, or functionality. Yeah.
Thank you, Mark. So yeah, what I had Mark and a couple of other clients just beta test the benchmarks functionality that you'll see here in a minute. Like with anything, benchmarks, we iterate. Whenever we build something, we iterate on it and we make it better. So what you see today, I think it's pretty awesome, but know that it's just going to continually get better. And we love guys like Mark because he's always an open book. I mean, he gives us feedback on good or bad, what he likes, what he doesn't like, and that's a great thing for us. We need that kind of feedback. So, Val, I don't know if there's any other administrative items that you want to cover.
No, I think we're good.
Okay.
But
so,
I'll be interrupting you guys if we have any questions.
Okay. So what I hope that you take away, there's 4 items here that I really hope that you take away. And we'll talk about this slide here, which is really our agenda. But I want you to really understand, number one, what are KPIs and why do they matter? That's an important point because, yeah, I mean, KPIs to me, they matter in a big way, but that doesn't do me any good if I'm a believer. I want to make you a believer if you're not already. And I know a certain percentage of you probably are on the fence on, I'm not sure how important KPIs are, but from my perspective, I think they're pretty important, and I'll get into that. The second item that I hope that you take away here is what are the things that you should be measuring? That's a question that I get pretty regularly. Is like, what should I measure? Is this important? Or is this important? Well, maybe this other thing's important. I get a lot of questions about, hey, what should I measure? So we'll talk about that. And Mark, I know we'll have some pretty good insight there. And then third, I think just what are the best practices for creating KPIs? And I want to do it a little bit different from your traditional best practices talk. I actually want to use a client example. So I hope that some of you will post some questions, give us an idea of what your company is like, what kind of products you sell, that type of thing. And we use that information to create on-the-fly case study. Mark and I will go through exactly what our thought process would be in setting up KPIs. And then fourth, the whole point that we're here is to really show you what the benchmarking features are. So I want you to walk away knowing exactly how to use the benchmarking feature in LimeLight and how to use that to really lift the sales in your company. So those 4 items are my goal. Now, I said it earlier, it's not always, not everybody has the same mentality when it comes to KPIs and benchmarks. We don't all think about the same things when we think about those 2 topics. So I want to first establish a foundation for us to talk about the benchmarking functionality. So, I joke a lot. If y'all talk to me in the past, I think I've got a terrible gut feel for that helps me make decisions. I just don't do well if I use my gut. And so I think that's why I've gravitated towards analytics and relying on analytics to help me make decisions. I know when I was talking to Mark, he said that and Mark, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but I thought it was kind of funny. Mark said, yeah, I think my gut's pretty good. And
Yeah, and I think it's only getting better. You know, you find those situations where and it's all based on, you know, what you've previously experienced, you know, so intuition always is somewhat kind of like retrospect, but, you know, like I just get better and better as I go. And I think it's because of how I process information. You know, 10 years ago, I probably would have been shooting in the dark, and, you know, half the choices that I made were the wrong ones. But, you know, as you get older and you digest information a lot better, you get better at.
I think using your gut is like a tool, like any other tool. If you don't use it very much, it's not a very effective tool.
Exactly.
And so I think that's why I probably I just don't. I've learned just not to rely on my gut, and that's an important thing to understand about yourself. But certainly this benchmarking functionality will help with that too. If you're like me.
Yeah.
So Chad, maybe before we move on to where you actually define KPIs for everyone, we have a little poll. I'd love to see what everyone thinks a KPI is before we tell them what a KPI is. So I'm going to launch that poll right now, and it's live. So we want to hear from you. What is a KPI? How would you define a KPI? So that poll's now live. I'm just going to leave it open for a few more seconds here, and then Chad will actually, we'll talk through the results, and we'll share with you what a KPI actually is. So,
yeah, I'm really interested to see what the results are here.
What people answer, yeah, me too.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to end the poll now. Oh, okay, looks like some people are still answering. Get your votes in. Okay, so let's share the results. Oh.
Okay.
So most people think that a KPI is tracking whether you hit business objectives and targets, but a few people said they track processes or none of the above. So I'll let Chad.
Yeah, so the answer, obviously, the answer is they track whether you hit business objectives or targets. A KPI really is about measuring against a target. So I'll give you an example: conversion rate. Let's say your conversion rate, your goal is going to be, you know, maybe it's 5%. That's your target. A KPI measures against that 5%. So if you're 6%, then you say you're 1% or you're 1 point above that KPI. And we'll get a little bit more into that in the more detail. But it's good to know that the majority of the people here, they know what a KPI is. I think at a point in my career, I didn't really know what a KPI was, or I had a false idea of what it was. So we'll add some meat to what a KPI is, how to create them here in a minute. But I want to set the stage for why just what are benchmarks, right? What are LimeLight benchmarks? So LimeLight benchmarks, they measure, monitor, and manage performance of KPIs. So that's why we're talking so much about KPIs. And why do KPIs matter? Well, they can matter for a lot of different reasons, but I like the way Peter Drucker put it. Peter Drucker, if you never heard of Peter Drucker, he's an author. The guy was brilliant. He's wrote many books on management and a lot of different topics. He was a big fan of marketing. He made some very bold predictions long ago that came to be true. And one thing that Peter said that really stuck with me over the years was, what gets measured gets done. And that really should be our mantra when we're thinking about KPIs. We want to establish a KPI so that we can create laser focus on a specific topic and with the goal of improving performance on that specific measurement or topic. So Mark, I know you're a big fan of Peter Drucker.
Yeah.
I don't know what this means to you, but
yeah, I mean, you know, it comes down to, if you're not measuring, your initiatives, how can you end up managing or actually optimize them? Because and then you have to also remember, just because you measure something doesn't always guarantee that you'll actually manage it. So you have to have a starting point, because the way I look at it, if you're not measuring something, you're just leaving yourself, open for, you're totally vulnerable to a bunch of forces that you may not even be aware of, and one thing with KPIs and measuring benchmarks and KPIs and metrics together, you also have to make sure that you don't fall into the trap of being only interested in the numbers that support your own decisions, because you can end up, dismissing, bad results or covering up mistakes. But, you really have to make sure you embrace these tools, to try and find those insights to, gain some value. And that's what it's all about, at least to me.
Very good. Very good. So if we can go to the next slide now, let's first just cover real quickly and define key performance indicator. So in key performance indicator, we've got obviously 3 words. We've got key and we've got performance and indicator. So what key is, what I want you to take away from that, when you're thinking through creating your KPIs, think about, for the K, think about a metric that is a major contributor to success or failure. And obviously that success or failure will roll up to business strategy, and I'll talk about that in a minute. The P is performance. So this is a metric that allows you to judge activity, good or bad. The measurement, the metric, allows you to judge whether you're doing good or you're doing bad. Pretty simple. The last is indicator. Now this is an important piece of the KPI ratio here, but it's a metric that doesn't have ambiguity. It's very clear. It's not a measurement that leaves question marks in people's minds that read it. When I say people, I'm talking about the people you work with, people that work with you, whether they're affiliates, whether they're media buyers, accountants. Everybody in the organization should be able to look at a KPI and have a really good understanding that it's an indicator of not just current performance, but future performance. So when we talk about KPIs, let's keep those things in mind in the context of this discussion. Now, when we create a KPI, there's books written about this, but I think it's actually pretty straightforward if you follow 3 simple rules. And that's, you got to have a clear link to strategy. You got to make sure that you're answering the most important questions for your company. And again, that'll go back to strategy. We'll talk a lot more about that in a minute. But then third, KPIs just aren't effective. They won't be effective if they don't inform the team by offering some kind of comparison. So those 3 things, key to establishing KPIs. Now, what I'd like to do is I'd like to go over some examples here. So if we could just go to that next slide. Yeah. So there's a risk here because I know that many of you who are on the webinar will probably disagree with some of my take here, and that's okay. Send in comments. But the idea here is that there's really no great answer for what is a good KPI and what's a bad KPI. It's going to be really up to you figuring that out as you monitor these KPIs and learn, what does it really help me achieve my strategy or does it not? But let's go through these examples here. So,
although Chad, it is really important to remember that ultimately the success of your business is dependent upon asking those right questions, right?
Yeah.
So for both your internal and external stakeholders and of the data itself, because if you don't frame your business question properly, you may end up going down a rabbit hole that just returns you with wrong information. So it is really important to, at least from how we've implemented KPIs, is depending on the cross-functional team or the who's ultimately going to need that information to kind of put your heads together and say, okay, what is our ultimate, what questions do we need to ask in order to get the information that we need to receive? So this is the strategy part of it is totally key to moving forward. Yeah.
Yeah. So what I want to do here is I created a fictitious company, and I really made this really stupid simple just for clarity here. But so I have this company called Acme Company, and their strategy is to generate 150 orders a day. That's their goal. And I've talked to people all the time that when I say, hey, what's your goal here? And they will say, I need to get, 200 orders a day, or I need to get 75 orders a day, or 25 orders a day, whatever it is. But that's like the elevator pitch that I get pretty often, which is fine, but it makes for a great example here. So let's say that we have this company, Acme, that has this strategy of 150 orders a day, and we look at 4 metrics: orders, pretty self-explanatory. Decline percentage. Decline percentage is the percentage of your orders that are going in that are declining. Pretty straightforward again. Cycle 2 approval percentage is a little bit more foggy. What that is it's the approval rate on the credit cards that are being used on your cycle 2 orders. And then finally, we've got CLTV, or customer lifetime value. That is a ratio that I know that all of you are very familiar with. So the question here is now, do one of these indicators represent a better example of a KPI than others? I think so, based on our strategy here, but this is something that you could debate, and I would encourage that kind of debate, whether it's in your own head, thinking through it, or with your coworkers. And Mark, I don't know if you've got any ideas here, but on the orders topic, I think that one's pretty straightforward. I think since the goal is tied to 150 orders, then absolutely, if you're going to set a KPI, that's a great one to set.
Yeah. And what you need to remember is that you're going to have more than one KPI for a similar strategy, right? In this particular instance, obviously 150 orders a day, you only care about orders and decline percentage. The other 2 factors are metrics. They're important, but they may be more relevant to a completely different KPI. So,
right. So, Mark, I don't know if you can, if you have any thoughts on, I think CLTV is really important, and obviously it's very important. Why wouldn't I establish that as a KPI here?
Because I look at something like CLTV as I look at it as a metric, really, for the overall business goal, as opposed to a KPI that's going to help me determine whether or not I'm hitting 150 orders a day. It's kind of irrelevant, now if we were looking at, I want my gross profit margin to be, 40%. I may look at CLTV, but again, that's going to be a trailing indicator. It's not really going to give me insight into, day 0 or day 1, in order for me to either manage or optimize this particular offer.
Right. And, I think what I want you to take away from this slide is that, again, I've said it before, there really is no right or wrong answer on what KPI is best for your company, but you need to talk through 3 items. It needs to have a clear link to strategy. It needs to answer the most important questions, and it needs to inform your team. If you stand by those 3 questions whenever you're deciding on which KPIs to put into the system or to track, monitor, and act on, those 3 things will really lead you in the right direction. Like Mark was saying on CLTV, yeah, absolutely, very important measurement. I would always use CLTV as a measurement that helps guide my business. But is it a KPI? Yeah, in this case, it's not. It's just not, because
otherwise you just start creating paralysis through analysis, right?
Exactly. Again, it goes back to, you just want to be laser focused and have that link to strategy, right, Mark?
Yep, exactly.
I have a question, guys. I think it's a pretty good question that probably a few people have is there an optimal number of KPIs? Is there a right number of KPIs to set?
I don't know, Mark, if you've got any ideas on that one. I certainly do.
I think you can have too many. I think you have to have at least one. Now, personally, I think we use maybe like 5 or 6 that we look at, on a daily, weekly, monthly number. But like I said before, sometimes you just get too much data that you get lost in the weeds, and I think you want to keep yourself focused. So, but again, if your particular business requires you to have, 10 or 15, then, it's all a personal decision. I like to keep things simple myself.
What do you personally, what are a couple of KPIs that you use?
I look at orders, in-trial cancellations, chargebacks, retention. I think those are probably like the top 4 that I look at on a daily basis.
Right on. And that question could be answered so many different ways. I guess what it comes down to is that, and I know a bit about Marc's strategy at HaloRiver. If you ask this question, like what are the KPIs that matter most to my business, I would follow up that question with, what's your strategy? I'd always follow up with that, because we really got to know high level what your strategy is in order to establish these KPIs so that they can help you improve your performance. So actually, if we can get some comments from some of you listening, if I could just get an idea of the strategy, you don't have to give me a bunch of words, but give me an idea, and we can use that in kind of think it through the process that we would go through in some of these best practices. So, Belle, I don't know, was there a question?
Yeah, actually, now that you asked, we have a question. So this person is explaining what their company is. So they said that, I run a company specializing in nutritional supplements. We sell everything from heart products to weight loss. Our goals are pretty wide ranging, but for this purpose, can you explain where you would start in your thinking process?
Okay, so they have, correct me if I'm wrong, but they sell heart and weight loss products.
Yep, heart products to weight loss. But I think it's a wide range of nutritional supplements. Okay,
so, and Marc, jump in here if you have anything to say. But I think what we need to do here, and Val, can you advance that next slide? I think this will help. Let me first, before I get to that example, let me talk through just the best practices and the steps that I take, that I've always taken. So number 1, I've mentioned it. You want to outline your strategy. Once you've outlined your strategy, then you do the work on determining your KPIs, and you might go back and forth with refining your strategy and refining your KPIs before you even get to track and analyze. That step between 1 and 2 can mean many things to many people, but in order for you to get strong KPIs, you just really need to have that tied strongly closely to your strategy. And then third, once you establish your KPIs, you want to be able to obviously track and analyze them. And that's really pretty straightforward. But and the LimeLight system allows you to very easily track and analyze this data. So we kind of take that for granted. But ultimately, all this work that we're doing is to take action. And so there's steps between 3 and 4 that can take forever. Like you can be in that phase between 3 and 4 for a very long time and really use KPIs effectively, track and analyze. So you'll anchor and adjust you'll anchor on the things that work really well, and you'll adjust away from those things that don't work as well. And you'll use your KPIs to be able to do that. So if we talk about the example, Mark, a bit. So again, this company was heart. They sold heart and weight loss products. I didn't hear them say anything about whether they were subscription or anything about strategy, really. Did I miss it, Val?
No, they didn't provide that.
Okay, so I'm going to make an assumption. I'm going to make 2 assumptions. I'm going to assume that they're a subscription business, and subscription is pretty important, and that the retention is important to them. That's a key component to their strategy. So if we make those 2 assumptions, Mark, I think that where I would start, let's go through whether they have let's go through free trial versus just a straight sale or non-free trial. Mm-hmm. So if they've got a free trial, Mark, I think I would at least look for in-trial cancellation percentage as being a pretty important indicator, right?
Absolutely.
So in trial, that's going to be important because in trial is going to measure the percentage of people that stick during the trial period. If they leave you within your trial period, let's say it's a 21-day trial, they leave you within those 21 days, you've just lost your acquisition cost to acquiring that customer. So I think that would be a really important one. Second, I think rebill rate would be a good one because rebill rate is that rate that you have. So you've got an initial that comes in, and that's good. They come in. But now, what percentage of those actually convert to that first full billing? That's an important number because I'm assuming that's where I made my money is on that first rebill and recurring billing after that. But I had to make that first marker.
Yep.
So,
and I would think in either situation, especially if you're starting out, you'd probably want to look at orders on a daily value or even gross revenue. Because when you're first starting out, you have to do the analysis to determine, okay, what do I even need to make in order to be profitable? So looking at all your operating costs and all that, and then taking into it and then backing it out and saying, okay, maybe I need to have, I can be profitable at the end of the day based upon the CPA that I've established at, 50 orders a day. Because if you're, only doing 20, at the end of the month, you may look at saying, oh, great, I'm making all these sales, and my retention may be, 80%, but you're still not profitable because you're balancing, you've got, 10 employees that you got to pay. So
right.
I think it's always important, like from when you're starting out, orders is really a valuable number to look at because that's the first immediate number that you can look at because you're not going to get rebill rates until, 14, 20 days after. So,
yeah, to that point, Mark, don't you think day 0 cancellation would be good for this, this point too? Yep. And I know you're a big fan of that measurement.
Yep. That tells you so much from whether or not you need to make changes on your website or your back-end customer service, or you have to go, wrangle up some networks to figure out, what the pre-sale pages are doing or, all sorts of stuff. Or even looking at your if your back-end code is not processing orders or, doing something funky on the back end. So.
Right. Yeah. So I think that day 0 would be really, really key to you. That would be a great KPI. Now, and that's assuming that you have a free trial offer running. Now, let's assume, Mark, for a minute that they don't have a free trial running. that it's just a straight up subscription offer. I would change my view a little bit from in trial, cancel, and rebill rate and day zero. And you said orders. I think I'd move more towards more long-term goals like CLTV. I'd want to look at that as a KPI. I might want to even look at refund percentage. And maybe even if I get creative, I could look at cycle 3+ approval rate, right? Because if your goal is retention, which that's the assumption we're making, we kind of want to know that you're getting people to bill cycle 3+.
Yeah.
Hey Chad, just what does cycle 3 approval rate mean?
Yeah, so cycle 3+, what that is so cycle 0 is that initial order that goes through, right? So your initial free trial or order that goes through, that's 0. Then 1 is your rebill, and then 2 is that the cycle after rebill. So if I've got a $6 trial, that cycle 0 is the $6. Maybe my rebill cost is $50. So $6 for the trial, and then I'm gonna bill them $50 on day 21, and then $50 again on, let's say, day 42, whatever it is, 50, 60. Then that's cycle 2. Cycle 3+ is just a subsequent cycle, but what 3+ includes is everything, 3 and beyond. So it's a really important measurement to look at. I hope that answers your question. I see we have some other questions, Val. Do we need to get to those?
No, I think we've answered the question.
Okay, cool. Okay, so
Chad, maybe before we move on, I think it would be helpful to kind of summarize. So if you're running, can you briefly kind of summarize, if you're running a trial, what do you think the most important KPIs are? If you're running single purchase, and if you're running.
Yeah, I think, and a lot of this is theory right now, and we'll get into the actual use of the system here in a minute. But if I'm thinking about KPIs for trial companies, I'm thinking about really 3 things, and Mark mentioned a 4th that I think would be important, which was orders, but in trial cancel percentage, rebill rate, and then day 0 cancellation. I think those 3 are just bare bones. Again, you have to think about your strategy, but those would be 3 metrics that I would certainly look deep at to creating KPIs. And then for like a straight sale or non-free trial, I would look at CLTV first, refund percentage, and then this cycle 3+ rate. And down the road, I think, as I think about this this heart and weight loss company that submitted their question here, I think that I would want to look at retention. We don't currently have retention in our 15 benchmarks that we allow you to set. So maybe retention or churn, which is the opposite of retention. Those are things that I would probably look at too. So speaking of that, I should say too that when you use this functionality and you see things that you need, maybe you go through this process and you have a KPI that you want to create into a benchmark, then just let us know, because we can rapidly get those made available to you.
Yeah, I know. I've taken advantage of that on a few occasions.
Yeah,
it's kind of like a shameless plug there, but I do really appreciate that about working with you guys and all the support team at LimeLight. Like if you just pick up the phone or you get on their chat and you say, hey, like I don't understand this, or can you add this or make this functionality work in a different way. It may take a little time, but usually the consensus, leads out, and you end up, I can't, profess enough how much, like just working with you, how many things have you've changed for me on my behalf, just to be, and hopefully it's, benefited the community as well. But
yeah, I get that a lot, Mark. I think the team at LimeLight, and I appreciate you saying that, but I think we're pretty open-minded when it comes to making changes. So my whole point in saying that wasn't to get you to give us a compliment, but I appreciate it. But I do want to make this useful to you. I want everybody to be able to use the benchmarks functionality in a way that helps them grow their business, or else what else are we doing? I mean, that's really what we're talking about here. So please send in your feedback to me if you can. I know we'll post we can post my my Skype or my email in the chat. But we've talked a little bit about benchmarks, Mark, but we haven't really defined what benchmarks are. So real quickly, I just want to establish what a benchmark is and how that's different from a KPI. So a benchmark, a lot of times I think about Forrester. They every so often they come out with a benchmarking report. So like as an example, maybe average order value. Maybe Forrester says that your average order value in nutritional supplement space is $45. That's a benchmark. So now you can use that benchmark to measure yourself against. And maybe you use the $45 as a target for your KPI. And again, I'll show you, I'll put some more meat to this when I get into the system and show you. But let's just get straight on what a benchmark is. I don't know, Mark, if you've got any other comments on benchmarks, but it's an important distinction.
Yeah. Well, I know everybody's probably excited to see how to make it work in the system, so I won't bog down time.
Let's get there. Let's get to the benchmarking functionality, the LimeLight benchmarking functionality. So this slide here is just showing you really our goal in creating this functionality. What we wanted to do is we wanted to create a tool for you to use to be able to improve, add clarity and focus to your offers that you're running. And hopefully that encourages learning, engagement, and communication. So with that in mind, now I'm going to take the screen from you, and we're going to jump into it.
Yep, Chad's going to do a live demo for us.
Okay. So get in here and share my screen. Let me know when you can see my screen.
There we go, we can see it.
Okay, so let me actually, looks like it logged me out, so I'm gonna just log back in real quick.
Can you fix that, Chad? So we don't have to constantly refresh.
Yeah. Yeah, I bet you have to log in 20, 30 times a day, and that's probably trust me, Mark, I've had those comments. All right, so the first thing I want to show you is in the menu where you'll go to Insights and then Benchmarks. I'm going to click on that. So the first thing that we want to do here is we want to create a benchmark. And you can see here, so it shows you 15 on this page. So we have 15 benchmarks available to you today. I'm going to delete one of these real quick and show you how to create one. So I just deleted fraud, but you can see all my other benchmarks. I set those up so that you could see them in this demo. So now I go to Actions, I go to Add Benchmark. Now I pick from my drop down here. These are the 15 KPIs that we're giving you today. And this is where I hope that I'll get people asking me, hey, I want this KPI added, and we can add that very quickly. I can see a day when we have, over 100 different options for you here. We have 15 right now. I've tried to pick the ones that I thought would be most useful for you. So now I'm going to add fraud. Did you see that? Where it shows my company benchmark is 0.32%. So if I hover over this question mark, what it tells me is this is my 90-day average. So you can use this 0.32 to establish your target. Your target is what your benchmark, your KPI is going to measure against. Your company benchmark of 0.32. Let's say I want to get more aggressive and I want to set this at a 0.3. So I put 0.3 in there. I hit save profile, and that's it. I've got a fraud target in there at 0.330, the benchmark being 0.32. Now my KPI is set. So what does that mean? Well, now if I go to, let's say I go to one of my analytics dashboards, so I go to Insights Analytics, and I'm going to go to my favorite dashboard, traffic source quality. We'll look at this. And now what we're going to see here is we'll see, how do I measure against that, the benchmark that I set? So like for in-trial cancellation percentage, you can see here that I'm at 14.1%, and the benchmark that I had set previously, the LimeLight benchmark is we're not doing, we're not hitting that goal. So we're 1.7 markers away from 14.1. And Marc, you've used the system, so I don't know if you have any other information you'd share here.
Not really. I mean, once you get into it, it's really self-explanatory, I would think. I guess the one thing I can say is that if you're going to take this information and you're going to share it with other people on your team, you have to remember that if you can't explain it simply, then you may not understand it well enough yourself. So I kind of look at it as if you're the only one who gets it, then you've kind of failed in your analysis. So, but as far as viewing the analytics platform and understanding what the indicators are telling you, I mean, to me, it's self-explanatory. It's kind of common sense at the end of the day.
Yep. So I'm going to show you, I'm going to go back here, and I'm actually going to go to the benchmarks page, and I want to look at, so rebill rate. So what does this mean? It's green, so that probably means good, right? Green is better than red. So it says that I'm 3.0% above 56%. So let's look at the benchmark that I set for rebill rate. I set the rebill rate. Yeah, so rebill rate I set 53. So you can see that, okay, so I'm 3 markers ahead of that. So that's I'm 3 markers above, 3% above. I hope that makes sense. There's another way you could do it, and you could do a true percentage. The giving just a marker change is a little bit better, just a little bit clearer for you, so you know that you're 3 markers down from your target, or you're 3 markers above on your target rate.
Yeah, I would totally agree with you on that, because if you start showing like an actual percentage change over your goal, then it's going to get really convoluted, and you're going to have to keep digging in. Okay, what was my goal? At least at this point, like, okay, it's a simple math equation at that point.
Yeah, you really, hopefully it's easier for you, like Marc said, to understand where you're at. But I do recognize that there's another way to do that. But I went this route because I thought it'd be easier. So let me point out to, okay, you got obvious things here. You got up arrows and down arrows. Sometimes those down arrows are good and sometimes they're bad. If they're good, we make them green. If they're bad, we make them red. So that's pretty obvious too, but it should be said. And then if you hover over any of the question marks, you're going to get just a little bit more information to help you understand what this is, what it's telling you. So that's the functionality. That's the way it works. And
hey, Chad, I just wanted to make sure that everyone knows that, and if you said it, but to reiterate that once you set your benchmarks, it does take up to 2 hours to reflect in the dashboard. So don't go set it and go automatically go look and expect to see those differentials that Chad just pointed out.
Right.
Obviously takes some time for this.
Yeah, thanks, Phil. Right, so yeah, it could take 2 hours. We set a cron to run every 2 hours to pick these up. So you'll go in, set it, and it might take it right away one time, but it might take the full 2 hours the next time. The other thing I didn't really mention here is what's inside a company benchmark. What this is telling you is your 90-day average. So your what your rolling average is over 90 days. So today it's a 0.32 for my sales demo count. Tomorrow it might be a 0.31. It might be, I doubt it would swing real big at like a 0.4, but this is just your 90-day averages.
So Chad, there's a question about the 90-day averages. So should clients be using that 90-day average to help set like a realistic KPI or realistic benchmark or target number?
Yeah. So what you want to do, and Mark, you've used the functionality, but I mean, I think it's pretty straightforward. You can use this number to really help you legitimize what your target is. I put those there so that you didn't have to look around in the system and understand what figure out what your target should be. But it doesn't mean that, let's say you want your target to be a 0.1. You can put your target at a 0.1. It just means that you've got a long way to go on your average, and but that's fine too. But the whole idea here is just to give you a little bit more information so that you know exactly where you stand as a company today.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because you need to look at your past performance in order to be able to gauge, like Chad said, what that target goal is going to be. If they put in like the entire ecosystem of the LimeLight customer base as the benchmark, then you're going to be kind of skewed all over the place. You may actually be choosing the wrong target or thinking that you're way off, where at least this gives you a snapshot of where you currently are.
Cool. So we have a few questions rolling in. First, can we select the campaigns to be included in the measurement of the benchmark? Or does the benchmark automatically include every campaign in LimeLight?
Yeah, that's a great question. It's as if I planted that question, because the answer is no. You can't do it by campaign. We tried, and Mark, I don't know if you saw this in the beginning. I did have in here when we were beta testing it. I had the ability for you to add campaigns, and we commented that out for now. So if I go in here, let's go back here. If I go in here and I want to add a benchmark, we had another area here that allowed you to basically set up a campaign that's tied to a specific benchmark, but it got too confusing. So I didn't develop that very, very well. I'm going to work on that. So hopefully down the road, we'll uncomment out that feature and give that to you.
That's good feedback, because you might want to set different targets and benchmarks for different campaigns.
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense. It totally makes sense because, I mean, you've got different traffic sources coming in, you've got different offers running, and those are gonna have different KPIs with them. So I get it, and it's just something that I couldn't make it work simply enough for me to feel good about rolling it out. So I just held it back here, but I would hope that in the next few months we'd see that ability.
Yeah, thanks for your feedback, Colin. So as Chad said, not just questions, we also love feedback because we work in a very agile environment, agile way. So we launch our features and we update them as well. So any feedback that you have is greatly appreciated. So we have a few more questions here. Is the data reflected, I don't know if this is specifically about benchmarks, but is the data reflected in analytics the same as a LimeLight full export? Does it contain test order?
Does it? No, it does not contain test orders. We've removed all that to give you the best benchmark that we can.
Oh, that's great. Okay, a few other questions here. Let me just sift through this. Would you guys be able to adjust that benchmark from 90 days to something custom for the company? Waiting 90 days to see if you are headed in the correct direction seems very dangerous. Obviously, the benchmark would gradually change, but for a 90-day average to change, you are going to need to wait at least 15 to 20 days and even begin seeing a significant change. And sometimes we may have made a massive decision in the wrong direction.
Yeah, I guess what I would say there is like, and this happens with newer clients at times. Obviously, they haven't been on board for, at 30 days, they're not going to get a 90-day measurement here for the company benchmark. So what I would use is the person's right in saying that it's going to change rapidly day by day. So I would keep an eye on that, but I would establish your own target as best as you can.
Hey, Chad.
Yeah.
Is the calculation exponential or is it just linear?
It's going to change. That calculation is going to change every day.
Right, but to his point, like if it's exponential, then it'll weight the current like the last 30 days heavier than 90 days ago.
No, it's not doing that. It's purely taking your the 90-day range and giving you your average. But if you're at 30, it's obviously going to give you whatever. If you've only been a client for 30 days, it's going to give you the 30 days as a benchmark, right? So, but that's good feedback too. It's one thing that I thought of here, Val, and I'll take a note that maybe what we could do is add the ability for them to influence that. Maybe they want their company benchmarks to be 60 days. Maybe they want them to be 15 days. Or maybe they want them set up maybe if we build in some flexibility on the company benchmarks feature, that would be helpful. So that's something that I'll look at too.
Yeah, again, thanks for your feedback, William. So going more on this topic of the company benchmark, is it a rolling 90-day average then, just to confirm? Yeah. Okay, great.
Yeah, rolling 90 days.
Super clear, everybody. It's a rolling 90-day average.
Okay. So I know we're past the time, but we do have one more. Val, if you could take the screen, I'd love to talk about some of these case studies.
We actually have another question, and it's okay if we're going over a little bit.
Okay.
No worries. So another question is, on the traffic source quality report, the cancellation by day area gives you day 0, day 1, day 2, up until day 4. But then they're bundled. Is there somewhere to see this day by day for a specific number of days?
You broke up there. What's the question?
Sorry, can you hear me?
Yep.
Yeah. On the traffic source quality report, cancellation by day area gives you day 0, day 1, day 2, up until day 4. But then they are bundled. Is there somewhere to see this day by day for n number of days?
There's not. And whoever asked that question, if they contact me privately, I could probably pull that for them fairly easy. But the reason why I went that route and I bucketed the latter days is because when I looked through the data, and I pulled, I think it was $3 billion in data to make that decision. But I said, there's really not a lot of difference between in these buckets. So I bucketed them to make them easier to just digest. But if that's something that is important to you, yeah, like I said, just contact me and we can look at that.
Great. Yeah, I'm just emailing. I'll in the chat to everyone. I will send Chad's email. So if you have any more specific questions for your personal account or your personal platform, and you don't feel comfortable asking here, you can always reach out to him directly. So those are all the questions that I see right now. So now Chad and Marc will actually, this is pretty exciting. I love to hear this story, but they're gonna share stories on how specifically this topic and setting KPIs helped them grow their business when they were share my screen.
Okay, so like I was mentioning, I've sold pretty much everything online, but one of my favorite products was supplements, and weight loss is just a lot of fun because it's a huge challenge. So in this scenario, what happened was my company was doing about 35 orders a day, which is respectable. It's not, it's a good little business doing 35 orders a day. It's very small, but we wanted to grow it. That was our goal, was to grow the company. And I set a goal of 100 orders a day, and it seemed really impossible at the time. So I established my KPI at 100, and it looked bad for many months. We were way underperforming is the way it looked. But what I found was that it increased so much attention on everything that rolled up that attributed to that 35 orders a day number, that we very quickly got to 100. We reestablished our KPI. We kept making it higher and higher as we grew, and the net of it was that we ended up averaging about 2,100 orders a day. We had days where I want to say that we were even above 4,000, but I don't remember the exact numbers, but it was pretty intense. But what by going through this process of establishing these KPIs, what I learned was that orders per day seemed like a pretty basic goal, but what it did was it helped me identify earnings per click. Earnings per click, I was relatively new to the industry. I didn't know what I didn't know, and I learned very quickly that earnings per click was very important to the affiliate partners that I was using to drive my traffic. And so I was paying, I think my CPA was $38 at the time, and I couldn't afford any more than that. So I knew that if I wanted to increase volume, I needed to set another KPI, and that was conversion rate. So what we did was we set a conversion rate KPI goal of our target of, I think we set it at 4%. We ended up with an offer that was converting at 6%, and the rest was history. We ended up earning EPCs upwards of $6, and I really attribute that. I mean, there's a lot of things that happened, but none of that I don't think would have happened if we weren't just laser focused on first that orders metric, then it evolved into the EPC metric, then it evolved into the conversion metric. So it's okay when KPIs change, when you just need to be flexible and open-minded, and go from there. Mark, I know that you've got some pretty cool experiences as well.
Yeah, I mean, definitely. I mean, your example is, a perfect example of what many of us go through on a day-to-day basis, or at least when we're launching new offers. And I remember recently we had a situation where once we established, we're really super focused on our retention number, and I was tracking it on a new offer, or an offer that we've had for probably a few months, and I started noticing that it was steadily in a decline mode, and I was like, okay, what is going on now that it wasn't happening before? And so obviously my first choice was to go talk to another team member who manages our websites to find out if they made a change. And because they didn't make a change, it led me into go looking at other KPIs that I have. So I looked at chargeback, I looked at my fraud percentage, and eventually it led me back to the in-trial cancellation. And because that's another KPI that we really focus on, it allowed me to drill into and filter down to specific affiliates. And in doing so, we ended up isolating one particular pub on one particular network who happened to be sending, incentivized traffic, and having all of that data to be able to provide to the network to then go and get, like, I don't know, I think it ended up being somewhere in like $50,000 worth of credits, all because we were tracking that particular KPI. It was incredibly valuable. Yeah.
Awesome. Great example. So that's the material that I have, but just to kind of put a bow on it, I just want to go back to the Peter Drucker quote in the beginning, where we said, Peter said, "What gets measured gets done." I really want that to be the thing that you think about here when you're making the decision of whether or not to use the benchmarking feature or not, because I've given you some examples, Mark's given you some examples. I know that if we open this up to the audience here, I know there would be some even better examples of what KPIs have done for your business. So I hope that you'll enjoy this new feature. I hope that you've learned a little bit here. And if you've got any questions about the feature, obviously I'm available. The support's available, but it's there available to you today. You can use it now. And look forward to your feedback.
Great. Thanks, Chad. Thanks, Mark, so much for being here today. I in the chat, I put Chad's email. So if you guys have any more questions or any questions about your specific account or platform, please feel free to reach out to him. He loves hearing from you guys. And for those of you that are LimeLight clients, I think that's all that we have for today, but just in case there's any participants or anybody in the audience that's not currently a LimeLight client, I just wanted to take a few minutes to briefly explain what it is that we do and how this whole topic actually fits into what we do. So benchmarks is only a small feature of the extremely robust analytics and reporting that our system offers, and we have Chad, our director of analytics, who's always trying to continue building that out to make sure that you have the metrics to measure your business properly. But overall, analytics is then only a subset of what our platform does. We're actually a subscription platform built for e-commerce. And when I say e-commerce, I mean merchant selling physical products. We do support digital, but we really, really specialize in physical products. Actually, it's an interesting story. We were founded 10 years ago by an e-commerce merchant who built this platform out of necessity. So we're actually really uniquely positioned to understand the unique needs of each e-commerce merchant and understand what it takes and what you need to grow your business. So really quickly, I'll skip this slide, but I'll go here just to show you where LimeLight sits in your entire e-commerce ecosystem. Is we have a very robust and flexible API that you can plug into any front end, any website design program that you want, or if you want to custom build your own front end, totally flexible there. We do provide you with a full-blown WordPress plugin as well as sales funnels plugins, so you can choose to sell through those as well. But really where the LimeLight platform comes in, and I like to use very, very easy terms to understand. You know, if you're a customer and you're shopping online, you're cruising through the shopping cart, but then you have to click the buy button, right? As a customer, you don't really know that there is so much that needs to happen after you click that buy button. And basically, LimeLight manages all of that for you. So you don't have to worry about anything. That entire back end is LimeLight in a nutshell, the one-stop shop e-commerce engine. So what that means is over here, LimeLight platform, that means that we help you with the flexible billing. We offer straight bill, any variation of subscription that you want to run, offer customization, so you can build almost any offer imaginable, product bundles, to prepaid offers, really however your customers want to buy, you can make that happen in LimeLight. And then obviously subscription management, once they place the orders, there's a membership portal so customers can actually make changes to their subscriptions on the fly. Analytics, of course, that once you started running your business, you can then report on it. And then also very unique is this LimeLight Shield. So it's not just that you're running your business, reporting on your business, you also want to grow your business. So we provide you with these revenue maximization tools that you probably didn't even know you needed. You know, just a few listed here, like Account Updater, for example, is a really cool feature that if you're running a subscription, you absolutely need. Basically what Account Updater does is automatically updates expired credit cards. So as you can imagine, that has significant impact on your decline percentage and your CLTV. And then finally, why it's an end-to-end platform and why it's your one-stop shop e-commerce engine is in big reason also because we integrate with 400 plus providers. So we're pulling, you know, everything you need into one system, whether that's fulfillment, contact center, accounting, marketing automation, I mean, you name it. We have 150 plus gateways. So and since we have the analytics, director of analytics on the phone, how that helps is not just because you have one system of record to run your business, but you also have that unified data, right? It's pulling all the data from each provider and giving you a holistic picture of your e-commerce business. So just some very quick stats. We are fully cloud-based. We run on Amazon Web Services, so very secure, reliable system, 99.99% uptime, very often 100% uptime. We are PCI level 1 compliant, which means that your data and your customers' data is 100% secure. That is the highest level of compliance for a platform that's running payments through their system. And, you know, just like I mentioned, 400 partner integrations. Last year processed over 3.8 billion, 150 million transactions. So, you know, we've been in this space, in this game for a while. And just to quickly show you some of the clients that we support. Like I said, we do support digital goods as well as physical goods, but these are some of the cool names in the subscription e-commerce land. So if you're at all interested, which I hope you are, you can request a demo or sign up for a 14-day free trial. And actually, the free trial is really cool because you can actually run live transactions through it. So you can everything is open in the trial. You can fully test the system. So I'm going to just chat you guys the website to sign up for either the free trial or the demo. You take your pick. That's getlimelight.com. And that's pretty much all we got for you today, folks. If you have any questions on LimeLight or the topics that we covered today or anything else, please feel free to ask any remaining questions now. Or if not, Chad or Mark, do you guys have any remaining thoughts that you wanted to share?
No, I don't think so. I think, we've covered it, but I mean, if there are any questions about LimeLight, how it works, Mark's experience with LimeLight, I think it would be a really good opportunity for you to ask a client. I know Mark will give you straight up answers.
Yep, for sure. And you guys are more than welcome to share my contact information too. If
cool.
Reach out directly to me. Yep.
Yeah, there you go. You can hear directly from a LimeLight client. Cool. Oh yeah, and just wanted to point out on this slide, we have lots and lots of help center documentation, as well as on the topic that was shared today, KPIs and benchmarks. So you can find that at help.limelightcrm.com.
Okay.
So it looks like we don't have any more questions. So I guess that's a wrap for today. Thank you so much, everybody, for joining. And thank you again, Chad and Mark, for walking us through this awesome topic.
Thanks, Val. Thanks, Mark.
Yep.
Oh, and we will be sharing a recording of this event, so stay tuned for that tomorrow. Bye, everybody.
Thank you.